ahead and get started. On behalf of the team, thank you everyone for joining. We have a fantastic session on 5500 lines up and with a really large group joining us today. So we really appreciate everyone taking the time to join our session today. A couple of quick housekeeping tips. Today's session is going to be recorded and that will be sent out to you attendees via email. And then if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop that in the Q&A and we'll be sure to answer those questions throughout or at the end of the webinar. And so now I am excited to introduce our hosts today, Mel and Jeannie. They do bring a wealth of knowledge and experience and insight on 5500. And we are lucky to have them leading our webinar today. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mel and Jeannie.
Thank you, Anna. So I'm Rimar, the Compliance Services Supervisor here at HR Service. I've been with the company for a few years, working on 5500s in our ACA department. Just thank you for joining us. Jeannie?
My name's Jeane Marwedel, and I have been with HR Service for 10 years. I'm an HR professional, but I've been over in the past few years ACA 5500s and compensation. So just kind of a pretty wide breadth of experience there. So, oh, there's an echo. I'm going to be mute, so hopefully that will help.
All right, thank you, Jeannie.
Oh, one thing really quick, as we go through, I have the Q&A, which you can find down at the bottom of your screen. I have that open, and I'll stop Mel as we go through so we can answer questions as we go along, and then we'll answer questions at the end as well. Thanks.
All right, so just to overview our 5500 webinar today, we're going to go over 5500 basics, avoiding common errors, due dates, reasons why you might have a late filing, the penalties, and best practices. So the purpose of a 5500 for a welfare benefit plan is just really to provide transparency to the DOL and the employees on the financial condition of the plan. It should include basic plan information, financial information like premiums and commissions, and all the schedules. And then, of course, with the IRS and DOL, we need to make sure we're filing as accurately as possible. Now, what needs to be reported on these? So for 5500 welfare benefit plans, it needs to include all the benefit plans covered under ERISA. So that's going to include your health, your dental, your vision, EAPs, your wellness programs. This also includes the HRAs. These are covered, ERISA covered. Your FSAs, if it's fully employee funded, it actually does not need to be filed for your 5500. However, if the employer does contribute to the FSA, then that's when you would need to file it on your 5500. Now, HSAs, these are not subject to ERISA, so we don't have to worry about those on the 5500s. So the first thing we're going to cover for common errors are the plan types. There are small welfare benefit plans, and these are ERISA plans that have fewer than 100 participants at the beginning of the plan year. And typically those are exempt from filing a 5500 if they're unfunded, fully insured, or a combination of the two. And we're going to get into the funding types here on the next slide. And then, of course, there's the large welfare benefit plans. These are the ones that have participants, 100 or more participants, again, at the beginning of the plan year. So now for funding, there's self-funded and fully funded plans. The first thing we're going to cover are the self-funded plans. And these are the ones where the employer is assuming the financial risk for healthcare benefits. So you're essentially paying the claims out of pocket. And under that self-funded umbrella, there are funded plans and these are ones that are paid from a trust. And these need to be filed regardless of the number of participants. And then there's unfunded plans, and these are when the employer pays expenses through the general assets. And with unfunded plans, that participant count rule is followed. So 100 or more participants at the start of the plan means you have to file. And then, of course, fully funded plans. These are ones that are through insurance carriers, and they require Schedule A. If you're receiving schedules and you're unsure if you're dealing with an insurance carrier, one good rule of thumb is to look for that NAIC number. And if you see that number, then you know for sure you're dealing with an insurance carrier. And then these follow that participant count rule too. Now, some common errors I see with the basic plan information. The big one is that participant count. So your participant count should include anyone explicitly covered in your plan document. So active participants that are currently covered, former employees who are on COBRA, even the deceased employees whose beneficiaries are still receiving benefits, those are counted as participants. Dependents, they are not counted as participants for welfare benefit plans. And another thing with participant counts, like I said previously, if you have 100 or more participants at the start of your plan year, you have to file. Now, let's say you don't reach that 100 participant marker till mid-year. That means you are still exempt from having to file. It's really based on the start of the plan year. Now, another thing with the basic plan information is that plan number. This 3-digit plan number, it's used by the DOL to identify your plan. And with welfare plans, the number should start at 501. And this number will stay with that specific plan. And each plan will have its own 3-digit number. So let's say you have your health plan that has 100 or more participants. It's going to have, let's say, your 501 plan number. Now, let's say you have like a life insurance plan that needs its own 5500. It would be 502, and so on and so on. Now, plan names, these are, it's a formal name assigned to the plan. It should remain consistent every year. If you're uncertain about your plan name, it's always good to look at plan documents or your SPD wrap, and that will tell you your plan name and your plan number. And again, it will remain consistent until the plan is terminated and a new plan is created. And at that point, you will assign a new plan name and a new plan number.
Mel,
yes,
really quick. So sometimes I have found in the past that someone has been filing for the company and then they leave and the transition isn't very smooth. And so somebody new comes in and they don't have any of that information of what the plan numbers are, what the plan names are. In the system that is used to file to submit these plans, it's called the EFAS system, we can actually go in and look to see what the plan numbers and names were. So that is something that we can assist with, or anybody who has an ID that can get into EFAS would be able to do that.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Jeannie.
And there was one question too. You stated 501, then 502. What if it is a wrap? Then would it be 501 for everything?
Yes, and we'll get more into SPD wraps, but that wrap consolidates all your ERISA benefits. And so it'll be one plan number. So 501 is, what you would start with. So yes.
And we have another question. When you say start a new plan for plan numbers, 501, 502, 503, do you mean an entirely new medical plan or just a renewal carrier switch?
So it would be an entirely new plan. You would keep the 501 consecutively for all future filings for that same plan until it is terminated and you create a whole new one. Then you would need a whole new plan number as well. Okay.
That was it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jeannie. So as we were talking about with the SPD wraps, this is one that really causes some confusion. So if there is no wrap in place, then your due date for each policy with 100 or more participants at that start will be based on the individual policy's plan year. And then also each policy will, with 100 or more participants, will need to file its own 5500. So let's say you have a medical plan that's calendar year and it has 100 or more participants. It will need its own 5500 and its own plan number. And then let's say you have a life insurance policy that needs its own 5500. It will have the plan number 502. Now, when you have an SPD wrap, again, this consolidates your ERISA policies into one document, so one plan. The plan year will be based on the SPD wrap, regardless if a policy within that document doesn't have the same plan year. And then also with the SPD wrap in place, if there are 100 participants at the start, then all policies will need to be included on that one Form 5500. And that's even if the individual policies have less than 100. So you're counting one participant for all the benefits. So let's say John enrolls in medical, dental, and vision. He is counted one time.
So Mel, what happens when in an SPD wrap and there's differing plan years for different benefits? How does it work with getting those Schedule A's from the different companies or from the carriers?
So you reach out to your carriers and they'll provide the Schedule A's for the policy's plan year. And then, so let's say your SPD wraps plan year is calendar year, so January 2025 to December 2025. And you have a policy that is July to June. If we're filing for 2025, the other policies will have to end on or before your SPD wraps plan year. So again, that July 2024 to June 2025, that would be filed on your 2025 5500. I know that's where it gets a little confusing. So whenever you come to HR service for 5500s, you give us everything you have and we will sort it out for you. Because it does get quite confusing with differing policy years. I hope that answered that question.
And I know when I've worked with brokers in the past with all these varied plan years, the ultimate goal actually became, let's get everybody on the same plan year.
Yes.
And you can do that by filing short year filings and get everybody on the same plan year. So it is possible.
Yes, that would be one strategy, is to do the short plan years. Again, we would walk you through that. Oh, too far. So some other things are with schedules. So Schedule A's would be required for any benefit plan that is provided through an insurance company. So your Blue Cross, Cigna, Delta Dental, any of those would require a Schedule A. The only time that we would not need to file a Schedule A is if benefits are provided by an administrative services only, so an ASO. And one way to determine when you're looking at your Schedule A's, if you have an ASO, is you'll see fees to a TPA, fees to a broker, fees to an ASO, but you won't really see commissions or premiums listed. That would be one clue that that Schedule A is for an ASO. And then there are Schedule C's. This one does cause quite a bit of confusion. So these schedules provide details on the fees associated with the plan, and they need reported on if your plan is funded through a trust and fees exceed $5,000. If your plan is funded through general assets, then you do not need to file a Schedule C for your plan.
I have a question. What happens if a carrier doesn't send you a Schedule A?
This does happen. So we would file what I call a ghost schedule. We would include a Schedule A on your 5500 with the carrier's name. And then at the end of the Schedule A, there's a section that says, did the insurance carrier provide all the information? We would mark no, and then explain that the insurance carrier did not give us a schedule. And that's one way to deal with it. Another way is to file your 5500 without the Schedule A, and then once you get it, we can file an amendment. Both are acceptable through DOL instructions. Okay, on to the next one. Due dates. 5500s are due 7 months after the end of the plan year. Your summary annual reports are due 9 months after the end of the plan year. You can file a 5558 extension, and these can be done electronically now in the eFast system. And it gives up to 2.5 months to file. And it also extends the due date for your summary annual report. Now we're going to go into reasons why you might miss these due dates. Number one reason, plan year, especially for the SPD wraps. Sometimes people aren't aware that they need to go by the plan year listed on that. Or maybe you have no SPD wrap and a bunch of different policies you need to file for. It could be really hard to manage and keep track of all those due dates. The second reason is bundling confusion. Maybe not realizing that all the ERISA welfare benefits should be included on these. So you're thinking you only need to file for medical, or you missed on your SPD rep that your life insurance policy was included, whatever it may be. And of course, we went over this participant count one, but it's really a big one that I see a lot. You might be including dependents, so you actually might be exempt from filing or thinking that you're exempt from filing, but really you were required to file because you didn't count your participant counts correctly. Some other, whoa, sorry guys, my laptop had a mind of its own there. Some other reasons for later misfilings: compliance oversight. Employers might assume that the TPA or the broker was going to file it. However, the responsibility will always fall on the plan sponsor or the employer to make sure that the 5500 is filed. This next one I've seen a couple times where I get a client who says that they filed their welfare benefit plan, and I'm looking all over the eFast system and I cannot find a welfare benefit plan. However, I am seeing a bunch of 401k plans filed. And you check it out and I see that the 401k plan included the welfare benefit plan. That cannot happen. These need to be filed separately. And then short plan years. If you have a short plan year, it still needs to be filed. Regardless if there's a merger or acquisition, it's still got to happen. And if there is an acquisition and that company takes over the benefit plan as well, they are now responsible for filing the 5,500. If they did not take over the benefit plan, then you are still responsible for filing that 5,500.
So quick question about does HR service file 5500s for 401k?
We do not do that. That's something you would need to reach out to your benefits provider to help you with. All right, so you missed your deadline. What's the penalty? For 2026, it is $2,739 per day. So they do offer the DFVCP, which we're going to get into here after this slide. But that reduces your penalty to $10 a day. Big difference. And it also caps the penalties at $1,500 for your small plans and then $4,000 for your large plans. So how do you participate in the delinquent filer voluntary compliance program? Well, the purpose of it was simply to get everyone to voluntarily report. And so they gave this huge break in penalties to be eligible. Really, it's just for plans that are required to file under Title I of ERISA. So that's the welfare benefit plans. The only thing that keeps you from being able to participate is notice of intent to assess a penalty letter from the DOL. That's it. Otherwise, you're eligible. And to be honest, I haven't seen too many DOL letters for 5,500s, thankfully. So how do we file under the DFVCP? It's pretty simple. On the 5,500, we're going to check that DFVCP box, and then we need to electronically file your Form 5,500 because 5,500s cannot be mailed in. They have to be filed electronically. And then after it's been e-filed, you're going to go to the DFVCP penalty calculator website and answer a few questions, and they'll assess the penalty for you. And then from there, you can make the payment. You can also mail a check-in if you would prefer that. That's still an option. But that's it. You mark a box, you file, you go to the website, assess your penalty.
And who does that, Mel? Does HR service do that, or does the client do that?
So for the DFVCP, the client is responsible to go to the penalty calculator, assess penalty, and pay it. However, on our end, we will make sure that the box is checked on the 5,500 and make sure your 5,500 is filed. And then we can also, if you're confused on a couple of the questions, we can walk you through that as well. All right, so best practices. One of the best things you can do is conduct annual benefits audits. Make sure that you have everything in order and you're staying compliant. Establish that compliance calendar. Confirm who's going to take care of the 5,500. Is it going to be you, your TPA, someone on your team? Make sure your HR and benefits staff is up to date on ERISA requirements. And then, of course, with any questions or help or filing needs, please reach out to an expert like HR service. We'd be more than happy to help you.
Mel, I've had several questions where they're asking if the slides are going to be made available. I know Anna mentioned the recording is, and I just want to say, yes, the slides are going to be made available too.
Yes. And then any other questions that we have?
Well, I have a few. Let me grab them here. Um, what happens if you file a Schedule C? Because sometimes carriers will send you a Schedule C whether you need it or not, and you find out it wasn't necessary. What do you do?
Yes, Cigna in particular always provides Schedule A and Schedule C, which can be confusing. But if you filed a Schedule C and it wasn't necessary, there are two options. One, we can file an amendment um, and remove the Schedule C. Or two, because it's not necessarily an error, it's just over reporting. We can leave the past filings as is, and then for future filings, just file what is actually needed.
So do you need to file a Schedule A for a stop loss plan?
Ah, this is a good one. So technically, stop loss plans are not covered under ERISA, so they don't really need to be filed. However, if I receive a Schedule A for a stop loss plan and it has commissions and premiums on it, that is telling me and telling the DOL that there is an insurance contract connected to this stop loss plan. So to do our due diligence, I always advise in that case to file the Schedule A for that.
So if HR service is brought in, what is needed on the from the client other than the Schedule A's? Do you file paperwork on behalf of the group?
Yes, so when you first come to us for the 5500s, we'll have you fill out an intake form that'll give us basic plan information. Again, the schedules will be required. We will, when we complete the 5500, we will also include the summary annual report. And then you will need to sign an e-file authorization form that gives us permission to electronically sign the 5500 on your behalf.
What happens if a carrier doesn't provide a schedule on time or maybe even doesn't provide a schedule?
So I believe we covered that one with the ghost,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the ghost schedule. So we could file a ghost schedule and make sure that we explain the reason why we didn't receive the schedule, or we can file an amendment later on.
And you mentioned this a little bit before, but if they filed their welfare benefit plan with their 401k, will they get a penalty?
Yes. So if you file your welfare benefit plan with your 401k, and from the DOL's perspective, they're not seeing a welfare benefit plan 5500 filed. So it's like it never existed. So you could potentially get a penalty for failure to file. So it needs to be remedied quickly.
And how many times can you file an extension?
Once, that's it. You get up to 2.5 months, and that is that. And the penalties will start at the end of the plan year, not the end of the extension. Just a little friendly reminder on that one.
Um, so where do you find the participant count? Is it on the Schedule A's?
They do provide participant counts on the individual Schedule A's, but I do not recommend using them as they're not accurate. You could be unintentionally counting one person multiple times. So if they filed or if they signed up for medical, dental, and vision, it's just not an accurate number. Here at HR Service, we do have a 5500 determination tool, which will help you count your participants.
So this is an interesting question. If a subsidiary is listed on the SPT wrap, do they have to file their own 5500?
Oh, yeah. So no, they do not. If it is listed on the SPD wrap or through your insurance documents that they are a subsidiary to that plan, they are not required to file.
And this is the last one I see. So, what if you see what do you need to do if you see an error on the Schedule A?
If you see an error before the 5500 has been e-filed, I always recommend you reach out to the insurance carrier and ask for a corrected schedule. If it happened after the 5500 was filed, again, ask for that correction, and then we can file an amendment.
That was it for the questions.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, guys. Those were some good questions. Holly, or sorry, Jeannie, um, if you wanted to cover this section for us.
Yeah. So HR Service has been in business for over 20 years. And so we do a lot of HR packages, and we have benefit compliance, and then we have some third-party administration, benefit administration. So 5500s is just one of the things that we do. We also do ACA reporting, benefit compliance. We have tools to create SPD wraps, SMMs, which is a summary of material modification, the different employee notices, and there's a lot to keep track of. We have a benefit assessment tool. We do 125 POPs. We have a whole HIPAA toolkit, and we also have a document storage and delivery tool. So, and on top of this, we offer a white glove service so that we have dedicated people that are assigned to your account to help you with all of this. We do have a self-service option, but we also have a full service option. And with our 5500 and ACA reporting, it's just white glove the whole way. So there's assigned people. Our HR packages, we have a great HR team together. There's probably 150 years of HR experience. And we have a package called HR eSolutions. That's our online tools, and we have training modules. We have an online handbook that you can create a handbook. We have compensation statements. We have an HR help desk if you need to call in and ask an employee relations question or compliance questions. We have professionals there that can take those calls for a fee. We also do an array of projects. So we do compensation analysis, surveys, putting together leveling and market data. We do handbooks. We help with recruiting. We can do some training. We can help with compliance audits. So we really do offer a lot of full service options. And then we have a third-party administrator that we partner with for flexible spending, HRAs, HSAs, COBRA, and non-discrimination testing. So we really are a one-stop shop. And if you're interested, I think it's the next slide. Thank you. If you are interested in any of the offerings that we have, you can contact us at the number listed on this slide. Again, these slides will be sent to you, or you can send an email to solutions@hrserviceinc.com, and one of our customer service folks will get in touch with you and to understand what it is that you need.
All right, wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.